On December 7, 1971, Westfield, New Jersey police received a request to check the house at 431 Hillside Avenue. Neighbors were concerned as they had not seen any members of the List family for over a month. After knocking multiple times with no response, police decided to break down the door. Immediately, they were met with a horrifying scene: 5 bodies lying neatly on the living room floor, covered with blankets, as the air was thick with the stench of decomposition. The victims were identified as follows: the lady of the house, Helen List, 46 years old, 3 children; Patricia List, 16 years old; John Jr., 15 years old; Frederick List, 13 years old, and the elderly mother, Alma List, 84 years old. Evidence at the scene showed that all 5 victims had been shot with a 9mm and .22 caliber handgun. However, police discovered an important clue on the desk in the library: a carefully typed 5-page suicide note. The letter not only confirmed the identity of the perpetrator, but also revealed the chilling motive behind the heinous crime. So what really happened inside the mansion at 431 Hillside Avenue? Like and subscribe to our channel as we uncover the dark mystery and shocking details of today's story that you've never heard before. On September 17, 1925, in Bay City, Michigan, USA, John Emil List was born into a strict Lutheran family that valued discipline and the fear of God. He was the only son of a German couple, John Frederick List and Alma List. List's father was a strict religious man who raised his son in a rigid environment based on religious principles and strict discipline. This upbringing led List to develop a reserved personality, making it difficult for him to socialize and causing him to adhere strictly to rigid values. However, he was an intelligent student, excelling particularly in mathematics and finance. In 1943, John List graduated from Bay City High School with outstanding academic performance. After high school, List enlisted in the United States Army in 1943, serving in World War II as an air defense technician. In 1944, List's father passed away, but as he was serving in the military, List was unable to attend the funeral. After the war ended in 1946, List was discharged and began pursuing higher education. He attended the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor and graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration, later earning a master's degree in accounting. With sharp intelligence and logical thinking, List was quickly promoted to lieutenant through the Reserve Officers Training Corps (ROTC) program. However, when the Korean War broke out in November 1950, List was recalled to active duty in the military. During his time in the military, John List met Helen Morris. She was a widow whose first husband, a military officer, had died while serving in Korea. Helen lived near the base with her only daughter, Brenda. John and Helen quickly developed feelings for each other, and on December 1, 1951, they got married in Baltimore, Maryland. After that, the family moved to North Carolina, where John continued his work in the military. Recognizing John's exceptional accounting skills, the military reassigned him to the finance unit instead of combat. After completing his second military service in 1952, John List was officially discharged and began working as an accountant at a financial company in Detroit. Later, he was hired as an audit supervisor at a paper manufacturing company. Not long after, John and Helen welcomed 3 new members to their family: Patricia List, born in 1955, John Jr. List, born in 1956, and Frederick List, born in 1958. By 1959, John List had been promoted to senior supervisor in the accounting department. However, as John List's career flourished, his wife Helen began to fall into crisis. Helen increasingly fell into alcoholism, severely affecting her health and mental state. Moreover, she suffered from neurosyphilis, a disease contracted from her first husband. But Helen had kept this a secret and never revealed it to John before they married in 1960. Throughout 18 years of marriage, List was completely unaware of this illness, assuming that his wife's deteriorating health was due to stress. Helen became more reclusive, rarely leaving the house and avoiding socializing with neighbors. After Helen's daughter from her previous marriage, Brenda, grew up, she met her partner, got married, and moved out of the family home. Not long after, John received a job offer from Xerox and decided to move the entire family to Rochester, New York. There, he gradually climbed the ranks, eventually securing the position of Director of Accounting Services. By 1965, with ambitions of finding a better position, John accepted the role of Vice President at a bank in New Jersey. Wanting a home that matched his new status, he moved his family into Breeze Knoll, a grand 19-room Victorian mansion located at 431 Hillside Avenue, Westfield, New Jersey. Breeze Knoll was a magnificent estate, featuring a large ballroom, luxurious interiors, and a separate living area for John's mother. However, no parties were ever held there, as the family lived in seclusion, keeping their distance from neighbors. John was a proud man who firmly believed that a husband and father's responsibility was to ensure his family lived comfortably. However, in 1971, the bank where he worked suddenly shut down, leaving him unemployed and plunging him into a severe financial crisis. With no source of income, John struggled to cover household expenses, including the mansion's maintenance, cars, tuition for his children, and other essential costs. Despite this, he maintained an illusion of stability. Every morning, John followed his usual routine, waking up early, having breakfast with his family, dressing formally, and leaving home on time as if he were still employed. But in reality, he was unemployed. Instead of going to work, John spent his days wandering around, attending job interviews, or reading newspapers at Westfield train station. To maintain his family's luxurious lifestyle, John started withdrawing money from his mother's savings account and transferring it to his own account to cover expenses. However, this money could only sustain him for a short time. The mounting financial pressure, combined with his distorted sense of honor and religious beliefs, pushed him toward a horrifying decision. Finally, on November 9, 1971, John List decided to murder his entire family. On November 5, 1971, just 4 days before the massacre, John List asked his family a chilling question. He inquired how they would like their bodies to be handled after their deaths. His family members were shocked by the strange question, but did not realize the severity of the situation. They assumed John was just trying to lighten the tense atmosphere with a bizarre joke, unaware that it was actually a final warning before the impending tragedy. On November 9th, just before the massacre, John left a note for the milkman, requesting the cancellation of future deliveries. He said that the family would be traveling for an extended period, so they would temporarily stop receiving regular services like mail and food deliveries. By doing this, John hoped to delay the discovery of the crime, giving him enough time to leave the scene before an investigation began. Without hesitation, John stepped into the kitchen and fired a shot at his wife's face, killing her instantly. Next, John calmly went upstairs to his mother Alma's room and without hesitation, executed her immediately. When his daughter Patricia and youngest son Frederick returned home from school, John coldly shot each of them in the head as soon as they walked through the door. After the mass murder, John casually sat down at the dining table, prepared himself a meal, and ate right next to the bodies as if nothing had happened. He then drove to the bank to close all of his mother's savings accounts. About 20 minutes later, he went to Westfield High School to watch his eldest son, John Jr., play football. He stood there, calmly watching the game, appearing like a normal father with no signs of guilt or tension. When the game ended, John drove his son home. As soon as they entered the house, the boy had no time to react before John suddenly opened fire. But this time, he did not stop at just one shot. Forensic evidence later revealed that John Jr. had multiple wounds due to his father missing his initial shots. This suggested that the boy had fought back before being overpowered and killed. After killing his entire family, John List methodically cleaned up the crime scene, erasing any evidence, and continued his life as if nothing had happened. He removed all the pictures of himself from the house, then turned on the radio to a religious station, as if trying to soothe his mind and create a calm, peaceful atmosphere. John placed the bodies of his wife and 3 children neatly in sleeping bags on the ballroom floor. However, his mother's body was left upstairs in the attic. He then calmly sat at his desk in the library, turned on his typewriter, and carefully wrote a document explaining his thoughts on the massacre he had just committed. After finishing, he printed a 5-page letter and placed it neatly on the desk where he had been sitting. In the letter, John stated that killing his family was to save their souls, as he feared that as they grew older, his children would lose their faith. At this moment, I know that they are all devout Christians, but I cannot be sure of that in the future as they grow up. John List was extremely careful in covering up his crime. He sent letters to his children's school and part-time workplaces, informing them that they would be visiting their grandmother in North Carolina for a few weeks. In reality, Helen's mother had canceled her visit to Westfield due to health reasons. John List later revealed that if she had actually come, she too would have been his sixth victim. Afterward, John left the mansion, leaving everything intact, making it seem as though the family had gone on vacation as planned. John List's meticulous planning ensured that the massacre was not discovered until nearly a month later, on December 7th. Neighbors began to notice that all the lights in the mansion remained on day and night, yet they saw no one from the List family. When the light bulb started burning out without being replaced, neighbors grew suspicious and decided to call the police. Less than 15 minutes later, officers arrived at the scene. They approached the house, repeatedly ringing the doorbell and knocking, but received no response. After waiting for some time, the police decided to break down the door and enter. They immediately discovered 4 bodies neatly placed in sleeping bags on the ballroom floor. Another body was found in a room in the attic. This case quickly attracted nationwide attention, becoming one of the most notorious massacres in New Jersey's history. After examining the crime scene, the police initially suspected someone with a vendetta against the List family, but no viable leads were found, since the List family had lived a very secluded life. However, when police checked the List family's household records, they noticed an unusual detail. The owner of the mansion was John M. List, but he was not present at the crime scene. All credible photographs of him had been destroyed, making identification extremely difficult. At the same time, police discovered the 5-page letter that John List had left behind. In the letter, he confessed to all his crimes and explained why he decided to kill his wife, 3 children, and mother. Based on the evidence at the scene, police confirmed that John List was the prime suspect. Meanwhile, the family's blue 1963 Chevrolet Impala was found parked at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York, but there was no evidence that John had boarded a flight. Could this have been a tactic to mislead the police? After a long investigation, police were unable to find any further leads on John List and sought assistance from the FBI. After John List disappeared at the end of 1971, police and the FBI reviewed reports from train stations, airports, and travel records from that time. They analyzed resources such as train tickets, financial transactions, and witness statements about newcomers in Denver at the time. Through an extensive and complex investigation, the FBI discovered that John List had moved from New Jersey to Michigan and then continued west to Colorado, where he started a new life under the alias Robert Peter. He had taken this name from a former college classmate, but that classmate later stated that he did not even know John List. A year after the crime, the Breeznole mansion remained abandoned until it was mysteriously burned down in August 1972, 9 months after the murders. Although the fire was officially ruled as arson, no suspect was ever identified. After the fire, a new house was built on the same site in 1974. The fire destroyed potential evidence, causing the case to remain unsolved for many years. In 1989, prosecutors in New Jersey devised a new strategy to reopen the investigation and search for new leads. They enlisted forensic artist Frank Bender to create an age-progressed bust of what John List might look like after 17 years. Using forensic aging techniques, police made a major breakthrough in the case. In May 1989, the television program America's Most Wanted, aired on Fox, covered the Westfield family massacre and broadcast the forensic bust of the suspect. Less than 2 weeks after the episode aired, on June 1st, a Denver resident reported to police that the image looked exactly like his neighbor, Robert Peter. Police immediately arrested John List. At first, John stubbornly insisted that he was Robert Peter. However, by February 1990, police revealed fingerprint evidence proving that Robert Peter's fingerprints matched John List's military records from 1943. Faced with undeniable evidence, John was forced to admit his true identity. During interrogation, he casually confessed to all his crimes. He explained that after losing his job, he saw only two options: either live on welfare or kill his family to send them to heaven. For John, living on welfare was unacceptable, as he believed it would bring shame to his family and go against the strict teachings of his father. However, he had committed a crime that his father surely would have never approved of. After leaving his confession letter, he wanted to escape New Jersey and start over as Robert Peter. From 1979 to 1986, he worked at a box manufacturing plant outside Denver. During this time, he actively participated in a local church and even organized transportation services for members without vehicles. At a church gathering, John List met his second wife, Dolores Miller, an employee at a military PX store. They married in 1985. In February 1988, the couple moved to Brandermill, Virginia, where List continued working as an accountant for a small company. When questioned about his motive, John claimed that his actions were meant to free his family from life's hardships and send them to heaven. However, the police posed a crucial question. If he truly believed that, why didn't he take his own life after killing his family? According to his distorted religious beliefs, committing suicide was an unforgivable sin, meaning he would not be able to join his family in heaven. On May 1, 1990, at the Union County Courthouse in New Jersey, the jury took only a few hours to reach their final verdict. John List was sentenced to life in prison without parole. After his sentencing, John List served his time at New Jersey State Prison. On March 21, 2008, John List died at the New Jersey State Prison Hospital due to pneumonia. He was 82 years old. When news of John M. List's death was announced, most Americans saw it as the inevitable and deserved fate for a man who had ruthlessly murdered his own family and evaded justice for nearly 2 decades. Thank you for following this story. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to never miss more shocking crime cases and mysteries. Remember, no matter how terrifying the truth is, it must be told to ensure justice is always upheld.